Occupy Boston protesters are out in force today. They didn't have far to go. Their makeshift camp happens to be right across the street from the Boston Federal Reserve Building, where Fed Chairman Bernanke is speaking today, and they are protesting. And I'm joined now by Telis Dimos of the Financial Times. Telis, thank you so much for joining us. Let's talk about the Occupy movement and the impact it's having. Is it going to have an impact on policymakers in both parties?
Well, it seems like one of the principal complaints that you hear coming from downtown New York is that they feel like that the banks represent too powerful of a force within politics. That is that though there are regulatory and kind of reform things going on, that the banks are sort of controlling that process, and certainly to an extent they've been very influential in that process. And so I think that certainly they've given a lot of leeway to politicians, especially Democrats, to say, we actually don't like some of what's going on. We don't like the direction that some things are heading. So I think that what they've done is they've sort of allowed some of these issues to kind of be talked about, to be raised in a way that maybe they weren't in the past. And whether or not that translates into real change, obviously we'll see. But it certainly is kind of allowing some people to sort of shape the narrative in their favor.
And in fact, the latest USA Today Gallup polling indicates that 64% of those polled blame the federal government for what's going on, and only 30% blame financial institutions. I think you could infer from that it could be, again, the result of the really negative reaction to what happened here in August in Washington with the debt ceiling debate.
Yeah, like I was saying, I think that the anger so much is, obviously there's a lot of rhetoric about bankers and things like that, but I think there's really a sense that it's the people, that it's members of Congress, it's the administration who are sort of letting financial interests sort of overrun them in this process. And I think that there's a sense that it's Washington that bears responsibility to say, we're going to do it this way. We don't like the direction that this or that is heading in. So I really do think that obviously in August with the debt ceiling, where they saw Congress really unable to sort of take a policy, stick with it, be bold in how they're going to tackle some of the bigger problems. And so I think it is that anti-Washington anger, similar to what you saw in the Tea Party.
And in terms of the real economy, are we also at real risk here because of what's happening in Europe? With Angela Merkel now pulling back from a big long-term solution, are we going to continue to have increasing volatility as Europe rocks back and forth and doesn't reach a solution? And France is heading into an election cycle with the socialists challenging Sarkozy. So is it possible we're not going to have a real solution to not only Greece, but the rest of what's happening in Europe?
Yeah, I don't think that there really will be this is finally it, this is the thing that will fix everything type of issue. I think that there are structures that they're trying to put in place in Europe that will, be there in case there's some sort of crisis. But obviously, people will still be wondering, will there really be a precipitating crisis? Will these structures hold? And I think that there are a lot of people who would like to, buy stocks. They're looking at corporate profits, which haven't been great so far, but are still pretty good, and they'd like to be in the market. But I think that because they're worried of what they call tail risks, the sense that at any moment there might be something that happens in Europe, a Greek default or a big European bank, saying that they can't get funding, that is just sort of this outsized risk that they say they just don't feel comfortable, buying and being in the market when there's this giant risk out there. And so I think that worry is going to be with us for quite some time.
That's quite a lot of drag on the economy here and there. Thanks so much, Telis Dimos from the Financial Times. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.